We are live. We survived.
Our
All
aliveness is
right.
brought to you by HelloFresh. I said it right this
Hello,
time.
Fresh.
There you go. Hello Fresh brings you to us. Brings us
Fresh
to you. Oh
and
my
with
God.
a nice hello.
And make sure
Alive.
that before you stream, you have plenty of food in your house to cook so you're not hungry.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the
think about how
stream.
nice that would be for next week.
Have it
Yeah.
just
Yes.
delivered straight to your
Yeah.
house.
There's a
There you go.
coupon code down below.
Ah,
Yes, where you get a
Get
shit
some.
ton off. Technical
you do. You get
terminology.
70% off. That's pretty decent.
Oh wait, no,
That's
there's
pretty
not.
good.
It's not there yet. Is it?
Oh, it's
It'll
not
get
shown
there.
up yet.
It
It'll
will
be
be
there.
there.
Uh-huh.
Promise.
And
Wow,
when
we
it
just
is,
went
will
from
remind
6 viewers to 3 viewers in one fell swoop.
Oh,
Oh,
yay.
Yeah.
it's fine. They'll come back.
Yeah,
hate it
I'm
I
so
not
know.
much.
worried about it.
It's because
Well, I
I
think it's 'cause
stink.
Twitch is
It's because I
well, no,
didn't
it's 'cause
shower.
Twitch
Because
is
you're not fresh.
kind of wonky.
I'm not fresh enough for
Fresh.
Hello
Hello.
Fresh.
So does that mean we can't say hello to you?
We can't get fresh with you.
Uh-huh.
Well.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
Off to a great start, everybody.
Not with those ingredients.
No,
As
with
you can
those
tell.
ingredients.
As you can tell. So, back into our hyper caffeinated fantasy world. Rehash from last week. Everybody, as they were welcomed into the city of the elves, was taken off alone to have a one-on-one with somebody that seemed to be of import to this place. Um, and they each had their own unique things, but one of us still needs to have her tete-a-tete. So,
And
Ellie,
one of us
Hello.
totally spilt the beans in the very beginning.
oh my God, Rob. Anyway, so Ellie, as you guys, the manta ray comes and it lands at this almost like an air dock, and all of you climb carefully off of it into this like a landing pad, almost like for an airplane or a helicopter, but clearly it was just for this flying manta ray type thing. And Mizanayaki had spoken to each of you and said, I need you to speak. I've called people here to speak to you to help orient you to this place. I would appreciate it if you would go and speak with them. And he pulled forward first a couple of female elves, one older, one younger, and had said, and the children can go with them. And your teenage boy was like so exciting and stuff, kind of wanting to go with them, but also looking at you like, is this okay? Because they were very welcoming and friendly, and they looked kind of like him.
Um, where are you taking him, and when will I get him back?
And the older lady, who's the one that was come to take the teenager, says, they're going to the place of safety. They are the most precious thing in this country. So they must be
That's
kept
great.
safe.
No, I love safety. Safety is definitely what I want for him. When will I see him again?
After the Senate meeting?
Okay, so like in a couple hours.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll turn to my little boy and just play nice, have fun, don't get in any trouble.
Are you all right? And he smiles at you with his whole beautiful elvish face, and then turns excitedly and saunters off with this woman.
Be very careful with him. He's precious cargo.
And Mizanayaki behind you says, do not worry. Minasaba is the strongest of all of us because she guards the most precious.
He has a lot of special needs. He's very new to this world, and we just want to make sure that he gets along with everybody, and that everybody is good. And he doesn't really know how to speak yet, and so like getting information across is a little difficult. So just like a little bit of knowledge on that front.
Mizanayaki nods and then gestures behind you and says, Jernimic would speak with you.
Jardimic.
Jurnimic. And
And
as you turn around, you see what looks like a man who is old even for an elf. This one, he's got the white beard and the white hair and a face that's just starting to wrinkle, which means he's probably, God only knows, maybe, 1,000 years old or something. And he's wearing beautiful clothing. Beautiful clothing. It's leather that's been split, and you can see the silks or whatever kind of fabric this is that they get down here, showing through in bright colors. And he's got like a little belt thing that's intricately carved around his waist, and hanging from that belt are instruments. Some of which you recognize, some of which you do not.
Are you Jurnimic?
Yes.
I am obsessed. Where did you get this fabric? What are those? What are those? That looks fantastic. I want everything. Tell me all of the things.
Come with me.
Okay, bye guys.
And he turns and he walks away. But unlike, as you see the others, you see that Alex, as they're getting let off on their own, that Alex actually refuses to let his child go with the woman, and takes it with him instead, as he's following a very dour looking, kind of scarred faced man. Grim goes, you see, he's already left. He's left with the blue dragon that came up behind and stuff, and they've gone off. And Aramiel is looking kind of starry-eyed at a kind of a younger elven girl who's like, come with me, and is starting to go off. But you realize that, like, Alex's guy doesn't ever turn to look at him. He's just leading, assuming that man will follow. The young girl is talking too much, whereas your guy, Jurnimic, he keeps turning at you and smiling and gesturing like, welcome, come with me. It's all very inclusive feeling.
Is it Ja with like a G, or Cha like with CH?
It's with a G.
A G. Jurnimic.
Jurnimic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This
so you
place
guys
is
walk.
awesome.
He's like, I know.
Tell me everything. We had no idea that this even existed. Now all of a sudden, boom, people and places and brand new things. And I still really need to know what those things on your belt are, and like fascinated by this fabric. Is it made from like beetles? Like, what did we do to create this whole thing?
Well, come with me. And he takes you, and he starts talking about the instruments as you're walking. And you realize that the walls of this place look like they're carved from black diamond. They're almost translucent enough to see all the way through, but not quite. And they're just shiny. They reflect the light, but they're dark and kind of clouded inside. And he takes you up and up and up for a ways, until finally you get to a landing. The stairs keep going, and you realize that this tower that you saw from so far away is massively huge. It blocked the rest of the view of the whole city when you got even just a little bit closer to it, because it is
So you guys never
big.
skip leg day.
I don't understand leg day, but you get used to it. All right. And he opens this thing, and as you're walking, he's been telling you, and this is, you realize, okay, that's a flute. He gives you an Elvish word for it. And unlike the others, which were speaking in an Elvish language, he's speaking in Common.
Oh.
Clearly somebody told him something about you guys before he came. Or maybe he figured it out on his own. Bards having their ways. Anyway, he pulls out another one. Looks a little bit like a kazoo, but a lot more ornamental, nicely carved and ornamental. And when he puts it up to its mouth, it actually makes a really sweet sound instead of like a kazoo sound. So almost like birds singing, but as music.
Huh.
And he says, and it gives you the name of this instrument. And then he pulls out another thing, and then he pulls out this little round disc, because they're all hanging off of his belt, which means they're all fairly small. And he pulls off a little disc like this, and he flicks his wrist, and it spreads into a drum.
Whoa, whoa!
And he plays that, and boy, you have never heard a drum that smells, oh my God, sounds this sweet.
Maybe it emits a smell as well.
A little synesthesia going on here. So sorry. Anyway, so and he's shows you that, and then he flips his hand again, and it shrinks back down, and hangs it on his belt. He pulls out another thing and goes like this, and it elongates into a flute-like thing. Not exactly like your flute, but similar, except that when he toots a couple of notes, you realize that each note goes in 2 or 3 registers. So it harmonizes with itself based on the very complex fingerboard that he's got for it.
Oh man, that would save so much time. You're gonna have to teach me how to use all of these. This is insane.
Oh, if you're here long enough, I just may. They assigned me to teach you and to orient you because they believe that we have some similarities.
I mean, clearly,
I
on fashion alone.
I have not seen your instruments
Oh, I
before,
feel like mine are going to be so much less impressive than what you've just shown me. All right, well,
but they're still new.
That's fair. Okay, so this is what I got. And I'm going to pull out the instruments I have one by one, but I'm saving that flute for last.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just they're easy things. I think I've got like a
You have a lute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got I don't remember what else I have, but like it's just a handful of like little easy, like an ocarina. Definitely have
that. little pan flute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, after showing all that, and then yeah, and this one you just like it always gets out of tune, so you just have to like ding. Oh, give me 2 seconds. Okay. So now when you like do one of these, it echoes. It's pretty. This is a super common item, but here's a real cool thing. I've got this. I got this flute thing. And it killed a bunch of mushrooms that I felt really bad about one day. But other than that, it seems to do me well. I have no idea what it is.
He holds out his hand and says, "May I?"
Don't kill any mushrooms.
And he takes the flute and he looks at it for a moment. Very, almost like, roll me an insight check.
Let's go with shiny pink.
There you go.
Let's see.
Big dice for the win.
Insight is gonna be 23.
All right.
Shiny
He's
pink.
looking at it like he's greeting an old friend. There is no surprise on his face. There's familiarity, though. And then he lifts it to his lips and then realizes, for a moment, pushes open the door on the landing where you stopped, and you walk into a room that is barred heaven. Seriously barred heaven. Okay. This old man has things hung on the wall and sheets of what look like might be music or something like that, or might be plays, or might be, who knows what these are. There are beautiful paintings that are very lyrical of dancers that like cross the wall like a wave, and with the movements matching the wave. Everything is covered with bright, beautiful, soft fabrics. No fur, surprisingly. But even the bone, but there's bone, and there's
leather.
Leathers of all different kinds and colors that don't look like they're dyed. It looks like they came that way. The fabrics are just amazing. You haven't really felt anything like this ever as you brush against something as you're coming in. And he walks to the center of the room, and in the very center of the room is a little dais that's kind of like a tiny little one-person stage. And it's just a few inches off the floor, but just enough to make it very clear that when he steps up there, you're supposed to listen. And he turns to smile at you. He gestures and the door behind you closes very gently. And then he begins playing your flute. And what you hear isn't music. What you hear is all of a sudden a scene where you can see the weavers creating this fabric from strands of lichen that have been woven thin, like that rainbow room, perhaps. You can see the laughter that they're having in their thing through the music. It just, you can feel it clearly in your body. And you see the chattering that's going on, and the leather worker shaking his head and laughing at these gossips and stuff. You can see the people outside the shop peeking in and enjoying and touching these wonderful things. You can hear the tapping of people's feet as songs come out of the various shops from different voices and stuff. And it's like this whole city from his viewpoint that runs on music, everything in a beat and a rhythm and a melody. And it's just beautiful. And then he finishes the last few notes, and all of that fades away. And once again, you're back in this colorful, lively, artistic room. And he holds out the flute to you and says, her name is Lenana.
I gotta tell you, man, it's real hard to make me speechless. How did you do that?
I made her.
All right, I got like 10 million questions. I'm not entirely sure where to start, but number one, I think might be, why wasn't she here?
She was lost before we came inside and locked ourselves away. Roll me another insight check.
All right, let's try duck. Oh, okay, not as good, but 21.
Okay, still good enough. You can see when he says, when we locked ourselves away, that he's feeling just a little bit upset about that. There's something he doesn't like about the phrase locked away.
I still have a million questions about Linnell. Is that, am I pronouncing that right? I'm real bad at pronunciation.
Lenana,
Lennanen.
which in our language, our old language, which is now an older language, I assume.
Oh yeah.
Which means breath of life.
Breath of life. Lennanen. Taking that note. The amount of questions that I currently have are just numerous and overwhelming. But you, of many people that I have met here, which I believe amounts to 5, are the only ones so far to feel like you didn't necessarily enjoy the abandoning of the other worlds.
It was a great debate when it happened. And he pulls out a little thing, and all of a sudden he's got, it's not a lute. It's a strange long instrument that he sits cross-legged on the dais and lays it across his lap like a lap harp, but it's long and thin. And as he plays and he speaks, it comes out, even though it's speaking like a song. And he speaks about division, the debate, and you can feel the deaths that were happening then. You could feel the hurt in their hearts as those they loved were taken by the alchemages. And when that word comes across, the notes are discordant and not right. And you can feel that people were afraid, and some wanted to go below and hide, and some wanted to stay and fight. And it becomes very clear that he wanted to stay and fight for this beautiful world that they had lived in. But he was outvoted. And so he had come with them so that they wouldn't forget the beauty that they had left behind. And then he says, as the music fades away, but we found beauty here too. And now I celebrate that.
A good way of dealing with things.
The only way of dealing with things that doesn't drive one to rage, like some of the Senate, or to fear, like some of the Senate, or to sorrow.
The ones that are raging, are they still raging, or have they just kind of
We are a
accept-
long-lived people. It takes a long time for us to get over things.
Yeah, I don't think that's one that you'd easily get over. I certainly am not. And I just learned about it, so I was still processing a lot. Quick question of the bajillion. You are speaking a language I understand.
Indeed.
No one else has done that. How do you know it?
It is my job to know my audience.
So does that mean you've been upstairs?
It means that I have spoken to a number of people, and my people have spoken to a number of people, and word travels. But that makes it sound more difficult than it actually is. I asked Mizanayaki, and he said that you were from the surface, and that you had not been elves before.
Yeah, I don't know what this is anymore.
Would you like me to tell you?
Uh yeah. 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 I mean, full disclosure, up until about yesterday, I was an orc.
You were still what you are, just hidden, like we are.
I don't understand what that means. Nobody, the person that we talked to, super duper rude. Like every question that we had, he was just like, "No, I don't want to answer anything," and meh, just do what I say, and we'll move forward. And we were like, "But there's no so nothing has been explained."
Mizanayaki is always a little obtuse.
Cranky pants.
Indeed. You should write a song about him.
Oh,
I'm
happily.
sure he would love it.
Once a dick, always a dick. Hey.
Okay. Well, you are what we call, and once again, he plays a note on his thing that lets you, as he says the word, Noctofar. And you understand that means, just from the way that the music resonates in your head, night elf. You were the ones who embraced the dark, the ones who found the power of the deep places and the beauty of the gemstones hidden beneath the earth. This great tower was initially built by the Noctofar.
So there are more of me.
Not anymore, not like this.
Oh.
When we went beneath the ground, they knew that they would die as well if they didn't change or hide. But the Noctofar are not about hiding, much as one would think so, being elves of the deep places. Instead, they changed. They changed themselves so that the great evil in the world would not understand their power. And they did it so effectively that the change was believed. The lie was bought.
That's a big old bummer.
Until eventually and all of you followed or died. Till eventually there were no unchanged left to see and to remind who you had been. Except now you.
Happy to be the only one moving forward with the species.
Well, I mean, every orc is one of you. They're just changed. They're hiding.
But they
So
don't
they
know
don't
it.
know it. They don't know it. Which is the only way they stay safe. For now.
I have a million more questions, but the main one I have now, Penny, what's her deal?
Penny?
That's kind of what I named her. She didn't know her name. She was the only true elf I had ever seen outside of now. And she was all chopped to bits. They had used every ounce of her and with still keeping her alive, and it was terrible. And so when we met her, she didn't have a name. She didn't know her history. She had just been tortured for however long you guys have been away. And every time we meet somebody new, they all seem to know who she is and get frustrated that she made a choice or that she didn't make a choice or something just doesn't connect, and no one seems to want to give her back her memories. So
Because they can't. Only she can. Because she's the one that took them.
I mean, if it was that awful, I kind of don't blame her. Who is she?
Samarama in Saba. Do you know what Saba means in our world?
No.
It is a sign of respect, of leadership. Some you would call in the above worlds emperor or empress or king, or in some languages, God. But mostly a ruler. Her people, the elves of the moon, were the first to be taken because they were the most magical, the most powerful. And when it was time for her to seal us in here, she was the last. There were no more.
I mean, I kind of don't blame her. I don't think I'd want to remember sealing my people away either.
Well, and it was a protective thing. She knew eventually she would be taken. Why she didn't come with us was a great sacrifice on her part to keep us safe.
That tracks.
But if she remembered, do you think she could have survived eons of torture without telling them where we were?
I don't know. I want to believe yes. But I didn't meet the before Penny.
I think she believed it would be better not to take chances.
Yeah.
He strums a note on his instrument, whatever that is haunting and beautiful, but haunting. And it makes you feel like moonlight on water, that sparkle that kind of fades away at the edges.
So are these her people?
No. We were the elves of the sun, the Alpha. But no more. Now we are the elves of the dark, the elves of the underground, the elves of the cave. And he starts playing some spooky music and stuff. And he laughs and he says, and we have become mighty under the mountain.
And have you heard about what's going on upstairs?
Roll me another insight check.
18.
He's the look on his face says yes. But his words say, how would we? We are isolated.
The same way you know common.
Indeed, I'm older than almost anyone here, but is still alive.
Sorry. How's your hip treating you?
Oh, it's wonderful. And the young women that come to my bed at night, keep it so.
Hey, bravo. So there's this green mist coming by and doing terrifying, horrible things to people who don't have magic. And even if they do have magic, some of them just aren't strong enough to keep it off. And it's eating away our world. Is it something that you all know anything about?
That, no. But as he looks into the air, but there's nothing there. There's not a clock. There's nothing. He looks into the air. Very soon we will be discussing.
That's the big old talk that everybody's.
Indeed. In the meantime, here, come.
Hmm?
Sit by me. And he hands you the stringed instrument and starts teaching you a quick lesson in how to play it. And time passes, just a little bit of time. You don't know how much time as you're learning that. And then he pulls out the little drum and plays it and shows you how to play. And you're having basically the music lessons, and he speaks about how they make that beautiful cloth, and he speaks about, the core of elven music, how they tell stories with the sound in a way that your brain interprets it as images, not just sound. He starts to teach you some of those things, and you realize going in after just a little bit that you have never, ever met a bard this skilled. And this is who's teaching you right now. So time passes pretty quickly until finally he stops you mid-note and says, and now it is time for us to go.
Wow, I entirely forgot where we were.
Indeed. It is easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just why they installed an alarm to remind me when I should be at the meetings.
I need so many alarms, let me tell you.
And he stands and he leads you out of the room, and you find yourselves chatting affably about music and instruments and life. As you go up to the very top of the tower, where you walk in, and as you're walking in from different entryways come the rest of your party, except for two. Aramiel isn't there, and Jasmine isn't there. But the others are.
Well, if anyone was gonna fuck it up.
Yeah. So if all the rest of you want to come back, we'll get started.
Hi.
Hey!
Hi. So
Hello.
Grim, when the dragon brings you back, you actually have to go back into your human form to fit all the way into this upstairs room.
Okay.
They give you a head covering to kind of cover your ears and stuff. And the one who's kind of showing you the rest of the way up as the dragon leaves you there because he can't fit. And may have lost his ability to change. You're not sure because he just doesn't. They lead you up and they're like, okay, once we get inside, you'll be able to change. It's the corridors getting there as a protection are too small.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. And Alex, as you're being drawn up by Dorn, Then as you guys come up and you open up, and he's quiet and thoughtful, not really talking a lot as you go there. Your child is holding on to you again, and eventually kicks his legs like he wants to walk next to you.
I'll put him down.
Okay, he holds your hand though, pretty tight. So it's a new place, but he's having fun reaching out and touching the walls and stomping his feet on the floor to listen to how that crystal sounds and stuff. You know, enjoying this adventure. Penny,
Yes.
Miss Anayaki brings you to a door and asks you, please wait here. I will call you when it is time for you to be revealed.
Okay.
And he goes through the door, closing it gently behind him, but you can still hear what's happening in the room from that door. And as you guys all come to your doors and it opens up, what you realize is the very top of the tower. This massive round room made of this black diamond that has been polished and inlaid with diamonds and crystals of different colors and shapes to create mosaics of maybe what had been elven life before this fading away, before the separation. And oh my God, it's beautiful. Everything just shines. The lights that hang from the thing, those made of those blue crystals, reflect off of everything in just a rainbow of gentle colors around the edges of the room. But in the center, there is a series of seated benches, 7 of them, that circle the room. And then behind them are more chairs, but not very many. You get the feeling that not very many people are invited into this room at a time. And each of those 7 chairs is seated a person, or will be in a second, as the people that have brought you go seat themselves in those chairs among the others that are already there.
I'm looking for a big chair.
Are you in dragon form right now, or are you in?
Not yet. I have to walk into the room and then I can.
Right. And as you
I...
enter the room, you realize that back, because it's a big room, so you've got your circular dais with the 7 benches for these 7 leaders. There is like almost like another little stage in the center where clearly people get up to speak or orate or whatever. Behind them is just one row of seats for probably 20 people. Beyond that is big open space.
Oh. Okay. So I'll just I'll stroll over.
Okay.
Not gonna fly over.
Right. That much like the rest of the room, of the rooms you guys have been in, that there are windows that are made of the same black diamond that seem translucent right now. And as the last of them finally sits and takes their seat, as you're strolling over to the edge there, one of them gestures and all of the windows go opaque. So now this is a private chamber. And
so neat.
And then another stands and says a word. And everybody roll me a knowledge arcana with disadvantage.
Ah.
That makes sense.
Ooh.
Oh, damn it. That was a 19 on the die.
That's
Nice.
an 11.
Oh! That's a 15. So, that's a 17.
I rolled a 19 on one dice and an 18 on the others for a total of 25. Sorry, 24.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
That tracks, though.
13.
That would make sense.
Okay. So, Chris, Grim has never seen this, but he read about it. And as you see what starts happening, because something happens to you. So Mizanayaki stands up from his seat at the head, and he speaks a word. And suddenly, a shimmering sphere fills the entire room. And you change into a dragon.
Oh, okay.
Did I get to the open space?
You started to. So it's like, I gotta move fast.
Excuse me, pardon me, quick.
And
Move!
it's like, whew, it's like the magic that had been making you human, look human, is suppressed. And you realize that what they've cast seems to be a giant. And Shauna, you're familiar with this. All of a sudden, you just don't know how you know. You know, this was an anti-magic field
Oh,
cast over this entire massive room,
Uh-oh.
probably for security, maybe, or so you don't know. And Mizunayaki stands and says, "Welcome, esteemed Senate." And he gestures to one and says, "Welcome, Doran Gray." And Alex, you realize he's talking to the guy that you were talking to, the general. This person looks very military, kind of scarred, very rigid and stuff. He says, "Welcome."
You cut out. Sorry, what was this person's name?
Dorian
Doran-
Gray.
Not
Dorian Gray?
I know. it's
Doran
Dorian
Gray.
Gray.
Doran Gray. Mhm. And then he says, "Welcome, Rodaskar." And he gestures to someone who looks very much like, oh my God, your typical ancient elven wizard. In fact, kind of looks a little bit like Thranduil. Standing there, and he nods. He says, "Welcome, Liana." And this kind of older seeming, pinch faced woman says, "That is not my name." Mizunayaki sighs and says, "Leonara Mantikaran." And she huffs and sits back. He says, "Welcome, Sashurina." And you gestures at someone that you just hadn't even really focused on. For some reason, all of you would just kept skipping over that person as you're looking at each of these very clearly powerful people sitting in their seats. And that person is like slouched in their seat. And they nod. Alex, there's something about that posture that just speaks rogue to you all the way.
Who? The one who said that wasn't their name?
Yeah, no, Susharima, the one slouched in their seat that you've had trouble focusing on
Okay.
until they said their name. Then he announces Jernimic, and the brightly colored, white bearded, clearly the oldest person in this assemblage, even for an elf. He sits up and he gestures gaily to everybody. Then he turns to an empty space and looks around. Where is, just as the door opens and an older woman dressed in the robes of maybe a cleric or a priest or something with definitely has some sort of like religious iconography to it, comes in and says, I'm here, I'm sorry, and sits down. And there's Felmar. And then the last one he turns to and says, "And welcome, Naga." Now, for as long as everybody else's names have been, it's weird that this person's name is shorter. And as you look at this, you realize that it's a woman who is as if an axe head had been turned into an elf. Sharp and just oozes something dangerous and wild a little bit. Maybe like a ranger or something. And he says, I bring you all here together because there's something very important we need to discuss. At that, the woman, Leonara, interrupts and says, I will say that our protections are gone. What are we to do? Do we go to war? Do we have extra guards out there? Do they need to come back up right now? And now we heard that that she's back. She can put them back up. And then she gets interrupted by Rotiskar, the male wizard, and he's like, no, she can't. Don't you remember that she can't remember anything? At least if that's worked the way it was supposed to work, And then the priestess says, and an argument breaks out. And it's very clear that half of these people are afraid and they want protection back up. They want to be isolated. And it's very clear that half of these people don't want to be isolated anymore, and that they're actually kind of excited about this. And the argument's going, and it goes into languages you guys just, or into the language that ancient Elven language. It's so hard for you to understand. Those of you who speak Elven, roll me a knowledge check to see if you can understand it once it gets going hot and heavy.
Did we decide in the change if we speak Elven, if I speak Elven?
No, you have
No.
exactly your knowledge and everything you've got right now. The only thing that changed was your body.
19.
Okay. Okay. Shauna, you're able to keep up with most of it. Not all of it, but most of it. And that's how, but it's clear that there's pretty hot and heavy argument going on here. There, finally, Mizanayaki stands and says, silence. He doesn't have to shout it. He doesn't have to speak harshly. He just says it, and instantly they all fall silent. And he looks at them with his undead eyes and says, we have no choice but to deal with this. We don't have enough information, and that is why we are here. And he gestures to you guys and says, come forward.
Excuse me. Pardon me. You could
They move a little bit and look at you, but not like,
sorry.
What the heck, but more like, we respect your kind of. We're getting out of your way because we know what you can do. So, but the two of them move off their benches so that you can get past them and then sit down.
If you can imagine a dragon trying to walk daintily.
Tiptoe?
Daintily. A dainty dragon. A dainty dragon. And just like, then the waiters come in with their HelloFresh meals for everybody. Which you could eat like Elven Senate if you ordered HelloFresh. You could totally eat like the Elven Senate. You could be as important. We might even call you Saba.
Oh, shit!
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So we get back to the dainty dragon, and everybody gets called forward. And he says, we are missing two. And Felmar, the priestess, then says, I will talk to you about that later. And then
no. What did they do?
And Leonara says, you needn't worry. She's doing good things right now.
Oh.
She?
Okay, but what about him?
He was foolish, and so he's needing a little bit of teaching.
Oh, no.
No.
Dragon facepalm.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a lot of facepalm. That is a big hand that comes in. It just is, you guys feel it in your soul. Yeah.
You guys do that, and Penny goes, ow. Because she tries to do it too.
So, as Mizanayaki nods, noting all of your reactions, and he says, soon it will be your turn to speak. I've invited these. And Leonara says, outsiders. Why did you bring outsiders? And he's like, because we had no choice. They know what we are dealing with out there, or what we will need to deal with. And so I brought them here to speak to you so that you will know what we're dealing with. You can just get the edge of annoyance in his voice. You get the feeling that Leonara has been kind of a thorn in his side for a long time.
I immediately like her.
And he says, and beyond that, we have more information. The lost has returned.
This-
And he says, Set, Penny, please join us.
Penny looks around at all of you guys and she's like, see, she's got that deer in the headlights look. She goes,
Mhm.
okay.
You
And she,
got
like-
this, Penny.
We're right here.
Yeah.
Booming.
Yeah.
We are
So
right
as
here.
as you come from the doorway where he had you kind of hiding a little bit, and you step forward, and all of them, all 7 of them, almost gasp in surprise.
I have hands.
But one of them that would be Naga, stands sharply and comes over to you. This dangerous, dour-faced woman.
Hi.
And she takes your hand, and then she kneels at your feet and puts her head on your hand in what is very clearly some sort of deference or
I'm going to immediately like try and get her to stand up because Penny feels very strange right now, having a whole bunch of people who know who she is around her when she has no clue who that person is. So she's like, nope, nope, get up, get up, get up.
and then Rhodaskar, the male mage, stands and very regally walks over to you and also goes down on one knee
No.
in front of you. And then Felmar stands and comes over. And then Soshirima comes over. And then Dorian comes over. And you're surrounded by these kneeling people. And finally, Leonara stands, but does not come over.
That whole time, Orkelia was she started crossing her arms and just the smuggest smile and the nod of like, you're damn right, bitches. This is exactly what I've been talking about this whole time. Until this Leonara woman doesn't. And she just takes like a little step forward. Does a quick stare down.
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting.
Mm-hmm. She stood. She just doesn't come over and do an obeisance. And then the king, Mizanayaki, stands and says, she has returned to us. And Leonara says, is that why the door's down? Is that why the door is gone? And he turns to look at her and says,
You didn't do anything wrong. Shush.
indeed. It is the only way it could, which means that it is right. And once again, it takes a second this time as they all stand up and kind of carefully step back a little bit, but they're all looking right at you, Penny. You have all of their attention. And it is just laser beam attention from people who are almost as old as you are, most of them. A couple of them that are as old as you are, probably. And they're just like looking at you as they start talking to each other. But that, one of them says, that can't be. She said it would be forever. The other one says, in fact, Thelmar says, but the prophecy.
Prophecy?
Says, the prophecy was just to give people hope afterwards. We all know that it was false.
Wait, prophecy? What prophecy?
And then Rodagaskar says, whether it was false or not, apparently it's coming true. And Mizanayaki is just standing there, tiniest little smirk on his face, listening to them without speaking as they debate, and it goes around. And the bard is just standing there, smiling, watching everybody very closely. You get the feeling that there's not very much that misses this guy's eyes.
Ah, it must be the self-fulfilling kind.
Ha!
This doesn't.
Whoever owns it must surely die. Prove anything if you wait long enough.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
Yep, exactly.
Doctor
So
Who's
and
love.
so there's debate, and then finally the king says, "Silence." Once again, quiet, calm, and instantly there is silence.
Which one is the king?
Bizanayaki,
So
the
Dickhead
lich,
is the king. Got it.
the lich, yes, the lich king, as one would say.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, honey, you should see his stats.
Oh God,
They're a
please
thing of
no.
beauty. They're a thing of absolute beauty. Anyway, but I digress. Anyway, we get back to the action. Everybody drops silent and they turn and they look at him. He says, "Take your seats. We have a lot of information that we need before we make a decision. Wouldn't you agree?"
Penny sits on the ground.
Ha!
And they all, in silence, go sit back down. And he turns to you guys again and says, "All right, speak to us about the world outside.
Oh, it's bad news bears.
Not about the light yet.
Oh.
Tell us about the alchemages."
Yeah.
They are also bad news bears.
I think we know that.
Oh, we dispatched one, right?
I think he dispatched himself.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure we killed that one.
You dispatched an alchemage. You?
Yeah.
Says one of the people over there. You're not really sure who.
Penny
Because
Penny
they're all
goes,
just looking.
"Hey, they're strong." Talking about you guys.
thanks, Penny.
She stands back up and
Yeah.
she doesn't seem like a leader at all, but she's like more like a petulant child. Like, "Hey,
I mean, at the end of the day, they're just human.
I mean, it did take darkness, but we won.
They're just humans that stole magic. That's it.
We put them in the ground.
it took
Did
How
I
many
miss
were there?
something?
What? There are two people talking. What?
Actually, Cross, this doesn't sound familiar at all to you. You've heard a little bit about it when you met them at the cabin later. But yeah, this doesn't sound familiar to you. That they killed an alchemage.
Oh, sorry, Cross, you weren't there.
Which one did you guys kill?
Did we get a name?
I don't know.
One of
I'm
the
really
things you
bad at
guys realized, since that was a long time ago in our time, I'm gonna do a little, but it's not been a long time for you guys in this
game,
world.
yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a little backup. Okay, and so for those of us who weren't there for that game of our audience, here you go. While they were running to try and get some rescued components to safety and to get away from the miasma, this terrible green light that they've been talking about, they came across a phalanx of Thorian's soldiers and a minor alchemage there with several components of her own, trying to find out what was going on. And of course, they were attacked, and they did indeed fight that alchemage, and they did indeed win, although it did kill one of their party, Darkness. They managed to kill all but one, I think, of Thorian's soldiers, and that one they allowed to go free so that he could tell the others to go away, because of the green light. But the last that they had seen him, he was running towards the green light, so there's a good chance, as Grim knew at that point when he saw that happen, that this soldier is now a walking, shambling disease spreader after a fashion.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're magical, but they're human, and they may seem strong now, but with the green mist and everything going on, I don't know how many of them are really going to survive in the first place.
So you killed an alchemage. Was it one of the eaters or was it one of the new ones?
Well, so the way that everything is spread, information and stuff is spread in our world, it really comes down to like traveling showmanship people, you know? You stop at a traveling troupe and they have more information and things like that, but there's not a lot of sharing of really important data like who is in charge under the main two or three people. So we could sit there and say, yes, we definitely destroyed one of their great leaders, or we could also equally say, oh, we destroyed a newbie. We wouldn't know. They're all dead
I'm gonna guess somewhere in the middle.
because they were powerful.
What did they look like?
Tanya.
We will describe.
She actually looked like a pale-skinned woman with long, darkish hair.
Was there anything distinguishing about her?
Not really, other than the fact that she had 3 components chained to her belt.
That's not Thorian.
Oh no, we probably would have known if we'd killed Thorian. That would have been a big one.
Then
Also, what was the name of the alchemage that I got killed?
Miscula.
Miscula.
Miscula's dead.
They look confused and like, tell us the names
Mis-
of the leadership of the alchemages.
Would I remember that at all? I don't think so. I think just the 2 that kept me.
Right.
I would know.
Okay.
Yeah, Cross would know.
This is when we all just look at Cross.
Yeah. So Cross, and all of you know the top 3 because that's spread all over because they're the ones. It's like your king or the top, the main Alcon who sits in the seat of power is Miania Thorian. And rumors say that she's been alive for at least 400 years, even as a human. Second most powerful was Garen Miscula, who you now know is dead, kind of at his own hand, whether he didn't like it or not. Then there's Turton Langer, Samama Unnamed, who is the necromancer of the Alcons. And those are the main ones. Those are the main powers. The secondary powers are a different group of people. And then there's tertiary. There's a whole college of alchemages up in the north of the country. So, Alex, do you tell them those names? And they look around, and then you hear there's muttering and stuff, and you realize that they don't recognize any of those names. And finally, Rhodaskar says, "Could it be that they're dead? That those great powers that drove us to near extinction couldn't survive time?"
Again, they are human.
And we're
And-
running out of time.
Mizanayaki turns and says, "Not the ones we knew, not anymore. The magic they used of us to extend their lives made them more than human."
What were their names?
You're going to make me have to come up with stuff all the way.
Uh-huh.
That I have to remember. No, actually, I do know. I do know at least the top 3's names. It's like the lead one was Durara.
Durara.
Durara the Almighty, as she called herself.
What did she look like?
She was human, dark as humans are sometimes, but tall for a human, and thin. Although how much of that was the way she had been born and how much of that was the magic she'd taken from those whose lives she had bled into her skin, I don't know.
Does that sound familiar, Cross?
Does it?
Roll me a knowledge check for knowledge history. All of you and
It's gonna.
the bard.
I was gonna say, should I too? Because
Yeah.
that's the
21.
whole. You said knowledge.
Yeah.
Can I roll to see if this triggers any memories or anything? The names?
Yep. Absolutely.
Ooh. This little dice is doing nice for me today.
Sorry, that would just be intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's a 10, so that helps me in no way.
21.
Okay.
We
about
both
you?
got a 21.
All right.
Sword.
So, Cross, you know from history, the history of the Alchemages, which you kind of studied a little bit when you're working for them, because that's just wise when you're working for really dangerous people, was that Durara was so Thorian's the head alchemage now, and there was one before her, and then Durara was the one before that. Rumored to be the most powerful of all the alchemages.
If memory serves, though, there is Thorian, but then there's still somebody above Thorian right now, too, right?
No,
Okay,
no. Thorian carries almost absolute power right now.
gotcha.
Then there is Samlitan, which was the second most powerful, much like Miskila was for this day. And then there was Duban. How did I spell that? Duban. Who was a tertiary power. And those are just part of history. They're so long ago that, nobody gets really taught much about them. Thorian doesn't like it anyway, because then she gets compared unfavorably with, ancient people who aren't alive anymore. Mizanaki says, I've witnessed Durara, so named the Almighty, level an entire city with one word, and the life of an elven companion.
Penny switches. Sorry. First.
Yeah. Nope. From our understanding, she had lived for at least 400 years before we went into hiding. And we had warred all that time with constant depredations on our people. And with all of our power, she would just turn it against us as she bled us dry.
Well, in support of the hiding away, which I don't really have an opinion of one side or the other, there's way too many politics there for me to weigh in. But because there weren't really any more pure elves around, they started kind of taking from other magical creatures. And so the magic started getting very diluted, and then they were kind of breeding these magical creatures to use them as components. And then that power, from my understanding, was never as powerful. So if she was using the purest power just to keep herself alive, and all of a sudden that wasn't available anymore, it's very possible she's dead. It's also possible that she's just like up in her ivory tower. I don't know.
They got greedy and used us all up before they started to think about conserving and keeping us alive for their magic's sake.
Which is why we hid, because we knew that we would be driven to full extinction if we stayed. It's one thing to fight a human power. It's another thing entirely to fight yourself, wielded by an enemy. And so we hid. And so did, and he gestures at Grim, and so did the dragons, who were even closer to extinction than we were.
Any other species we should know about?
Most of the others didn't have the magic to do this, to hide this completely. They've tried, I'm sure, but they didn't have the power.
Yeah.
Gnomes
The real
hid.
world. Huh?
Sorry. The gnomes
All their
hid.
eyes go to you.
There were some gnomes that hid, and they were cannibals.
Well,
Oh,
they
yeah.
were.
That was gross.
So, Mizanayaki turns to the others and says, it sounds like the alchemages may have been weakened over the time that we have been hiding, which means that perhaps now is our time to strike.
If I may, and Grim will actually like stand up.
Okay.
Big dragons.
And it's actually quite, you tower way, even as a youngster, you tower way over them, looking down at their heads as they look up at you.
I can say that my people are ready to attack. Maybe a little too ready. We need better information on all of the alchemages so that the right people pay the price. I don't want to unleash the power of my people on the whole world. Just the alchemages. But we're ready.
But
Rhodas,
Then we have to lure the alchemages out.
not
'Cause if-
Go ahead, Penny.
sorry. Not all humans with magic ability are evil, though. So
Yeah,
In-
that's true.
in to prevent the sorry, she's trying very hard to be very clear with what she's saying in her broken common, to prevent the history repeating and happening again. We need to make sure that we only hurt the ones that deserve it, not the ones that don't know better. They
I have
can
an
be
idea.
taught.
I have an idea.
all the eyes turn to look at you.
Well, we have two different hidden realms that the alchemages don't even know about, that are hiding dragons and are hiding elves, the two things that they are desperately trying to get to. If we use our connections, that we could just tell them where to go. And suddenly, all of the alchemages will come to you.
They won't do it themselves, though.
And if we know that, and we have inside people, if we work with the baddies and say, yes, we're here to fight and we want more magic, blah, 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 then we've got inside people on both sides. And we're able to relay the information of like, this is the first wave of people, don't attack them. This is the second wave of people, don't attack them. This is, and we can just pretend, oh, all of our armies got wiped out. Everybody's wiped out. And then we get to the point where the alchemages are the ones that are attacking in and of themselves. Then the only people who got hurt were the alchemages and their supporters. Not the people who are being ordered to fight for them, but the ones who actually are supporting them.
And how do you suppose that we should stop them? We
Stop.
don't have an army.
You have dragons.
Not yet.
There's
Points on
And
Grim.
we don't have control of the dragons. They are their own people.
They are absolutely their own people. People who have reached out to us.
And
Through
then
me,
Mizanayaki nods and says, and what of this green light? You keep saying it might kill them for us.
it might
Wow.
kill everything.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't have any kind of magical ability are the ones who are dying. If you have any kind of magical ability, which does include alchemages, then you may be able to shake it off. So there's no guarantee that, folks with magical ability are immune. They're just a little more boosted.
That needs to be stopped before anything else can happen.
Yeah.
Rhodaskar stands with his very wizardly way. He's thinking, it's like, we need more information about this green light, you say? Because it seems to me that that could be both a danger and a weapon if wielded correctly, if we understood it better. We need to know the magic that's created it so that we can either unmake it or so that we can make it safe.
No,
Why not?
You don't want it unmade?
I want it unmade. Penny's gonna switch to Ancient Elven, what she remembers of it, or just the language that's familiar to her.
Mm-hmm.
I helped cause the green light. I want it stopped. I don't want it used because it cannot be controlled. It can't. And it will kill and destroy everything that it possibly can. From the smallest beetle to the largest eagle to a human to a kobold to it doesn't matter. It will destroy everything that it gets that it touches. And you
Plant
can't
life,
control
too.
that.
Right?
Yes.
Rhodaskar turns and looks at you and says, I thought you couldn't remember any of the magic.
This is one that was caused recently by an alchemage when he was trying to use me, and I did something that changed what he was trying to do and created it.
All the more reason that we should study it because it must have an elven component to it.
No,
Which
he
means that
did
which only means that we can stop it if he was using you to create it.
He did not get the chance to fully use me. I want it stopped. I don't want it used.
Penny, I
We
don't
can't
believe
stop it if
trying
we
to
don't
use
understand it.
I think he's just trying to understand it so he can stop it. Because if you were part of it, then as he says, maybe the elves are the only ones who can stop it.
Which I'm okay with. I just don't want it to be used as a weapon. Because it will hurt us just as much as everything else. It will hurt innocent people. It won't hurt the ones you want it to hurt. It can't be used that way.
There's silence, but the expressions on each face are very different from each other.
You all say that I was your Saba. In this thing, I am firm.
You were the Saba of the Moon Elves, says Leonara very haughtily.
I don't
Not
care.
the Sun Heirs.
I don't
And
care.
we cannot stop it if we can't understand it.
Then we can
If we
understand
ignore
it. I'm not arguing with the understanding. I will give you all of the information I can. I will show you the memory if I can. But I will not let you use it as a weapon. It needs to be stopped, not used, because it cannot be used.
Mizanayaki is silent for this moment, looking around at the people around him. Kind of, you can feel maybe he's gauging their reactions as they're sitting in silence digesting this.
I don't want to be responsible for more death. When I can't even remember the death that I've already caused.
And there's silence. It's kind of going on a little too long.
Penny just
And then
stands there
finally-
staring at them like she's shaking a little bit because she doesn't know but she's very firm in this.
So Naga stands again, the one who came up to you first, and says, "So do we go and find this green light so that we may study it?" And she looks at Mizanayaki. Mizanayaki looks around at the rest of them, and then he looks at each of you in turn and says, "I think that would be wise. But we should also study the Alchemages, our great enemies, because the information that we have is only limited by individual experience. We need to know this history." Ellie,
Hi.
roll me an insight check.
A lot of insight going around today.
Mm-hmm. Politics. God damn it.
My favorite.
Politics is all about insight.
I can math. 18.
Okay. When he says we need their history because we don't know, you notice that Jernimic's face looks just the teeniest bit smug.
My boy. We'll talk later.
Mhm.
In that moment though,
Mhm.
I clock that and look at everybody and just go,
Speaking of needing to know everything about alchemages and things like that, where are our friends?
Mizanayaki looks at Selmar and then looks at Leonara and gestures at them. Selmar says, "He's sleeping off a spell that let me understand why he would tell our people that he had been a human."
Oh, I could have told you that. He's
He
just
did-
dumb.
He did what?
He's just dumb. That doesn't surprise me at all. Listen, what a himbo. Like, attractive dude, will kick the ass and will take names and fight for you. But man, do you just need him to not open his mouth.
Indeed. So he's sleeping comfortably and safely. And when he awakes, he will join us.
Not
Okay.
all humans are evil, though.
Yeah, some are just dumb. And Jasmine?
Leonara says, "Jasmine was finding a connection to her sorcery, and I left her studying it. It was very hard to draw her away."
I
Yeah.
want to do a quick insight check on that too.
Yeah.
That's a 15.
Okay. It's not a lie, as best as you can tell. But there's also something that, I don't know, there's layers,
Mhm.
but it's not a lie.
So she's safe.
Oh, yes. She's under Mizanayaki's protection. We would not harm her for anything.
Okay.
So, and Leonara sits back, folds her arms very kind of, you don't know there's confrontation coming. You just know it. Says, "All right, if we need to know what has been going on, who is going out? Our people, our hunters, without which our people will starve, our leadership, without which our people have no head. Who goes?"
Well, I think the obvious answer is the newbies.
Gestures at everybody, at all of us.
But here's the
And-
thing. But before you want to send us back out there, unfortunately, our Amy will let the cat out of the bag. We all look like elves now. We're gonna be hunted. So are we going to continue looking like this, or
Rhoda laughs just a tiny bit. That is the least concern that we have.
not me? I grew up around what those things do to people that look like us. That's a big concern.
If there wasn't the protection of the Senate up right now, I would show you how little of a worry it would be.
Magic?
Miserable now?
Absolutely,
Magic.
says
Okay.
the wizard. Mizanaki stands and says, "Well, as for who should go, you will guide us." And he turns to look at each of you. But our acquaintance hasn't been long enough, and your lives have not been long enough to know the wisdom of what you need to find in all cases. So you will guide us, but some of us will go with you. And he turns and he looks at the rest of you, of them, and he says, "Naga, Germanic, Rhodaskar, you will accompany them as some of our wisest and our most subtle." Now, Leonara stands up and says, "Well, what about me?" And he says, "You are neither wise nor subtle, so you will stay here and lead the people." And she starts to get this, and he just looks at her, and his eyes start flaming just a little bit of glowy undead flame. It's hard to remember that he's a lich because he's so normal, really, as an ancient elven, king all the time. But this moment, you can tell that there's maybe a little bit of ire there or something, and she shuts up and sits down. Now, what would make a sorcerer of her level of power, whatever that is, shut up and sit down? And he says, "And I will stay here as the leader of our people, and I will keep us safe, as will Thelmar, as she calms the fears of the people." And Doran raises his hand and says, "Saba, I would go. Me and a few of my men." Except that a word he uses for men is not male. It is like his army people. Mizanaki nods his head and says, "Very well, and so be it. The rest of us will keep this place safe. You will keep contact with me always."
So
This Dronimic smiles and says, "That I shall do, Saba."
before we leave this meeting, I'm sure we'll have many other. We're not leaving like right now, right? Like you guys wanted to get to know us. You wanted. I imagine we're going to need some items that'll certainly help us along the way. I know there's a magical protection and things like that, but I've seen what you guys can do. And I don't know, things like disguises and comprehending all languages and slipping through the cracks and maybe some weapons and just a few things that'll really help us out.
We will get to those,
If I
says
could just make a
Mizanaki.
list.
And then he says, "But there is one last thing that we will discuss before the Senate is adjourned." And he looks at you, Cross, and then he looks at the boy at your feet. Says, "You do not understand the value of what you carry with you and the risk that they bear outside of these walls. Mina Saba." And you recognize that name, Ellie. That's the one who has your teenager. Mina Saba is Saba. She outranks even me, and her sole concern and every ounce of her incredible power is spent to protecting the very few children that we have. Our greatest treasure. And I would ask that you leave yours under her protection while we do this. If you can, they will be safe. They will be loved. They will be protected by potentially the most powerful elf that exists in this world anymore. Will you do so?
May if he wants to.
Does he understand enough to ask?
If he goes, he can go. If he doesn't want to, then he's not going.
I think what might help, because I know it helped me, is if maybe everyone was taken to this school, daycare, whatever it is, and the child can see the opportunity as opposed to having it be described
That's
and
fine.
make a decision there.
He can make his own choice, but it's his choice.
There's silence for a moment. And then Soshurima, the rogue, who's been pretty silent this whole time, stands abruptly and says, they are strangers. They should not have access to our greatest treasure. You want to destroy the elves? That is the surest way. And then she sits down again, not looking at anybody, and instead starts playing with a dagger.
I mean, I'm a little offended. We're not really strangers anymore. You know, we're going to lead your whole people into the success and everything. So I don't know if strangers is the way I would have put it personally.
They have saved my life.
And I have already sworn an oath to protect all of your people.
Cross is gonna kind of just put his hand up real quick, just kind of like in like a hold, just and he's just going to walk up to the person. I forget her name.
She's not there. Or which one? The rogue?
The rogue.
That just stood. Okay, yeah.
And
Soshurima.
how I'm gonna get right up in front of her. Does she react at all?
She turns and looks at you. She's clearly not intimidated at all. She's just looking at you curiously. Yeah. With curiosity.
I'm just gonna look as sincerely as I can. If you want to take my treasure, you can at least show me yours.
She smiles. I have no treasure. My line is dead, but for me. I speak in generosity, and I speak of their treasures. So it is not my saying. I can only speak my opinion. It's weird. The cadence of their voices is all very similar. You'll note male, female. They all have it's almost like they've been arguing together for so long that they've all started to sound alike to each other. It's a little unnerving, honestly. The only one who doesn't seem to sound like the rest of them is Jernimic, the bard.
Penny's gonna take a step forward just after that interaction and looking directly at this woman kind of talking to her directly. These humans, this orc, this dragon, they have saved my life more times than I can count. They're the reason that I'm here. They're the reason that the door is open. I will not, if you ever insult them again, I don't care how powerful you think you are.
Yeah, Penny, you don't know all those words, so it
No,
comes
but
out
this
more
is like,
broken yeah,
that's
but the
absolutely fine.
subheading.
But this is like,
Yeah.
she's like, you guys can tell she's very emotional. She's kind of pissed, which is rare for Penny to get, but it's like,
I've just been having Grim like quickly summarize what everyone's saying. They take a breath. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Okay. Now?
Yeah, I don't know Elven, so.
You don't? Wait, which of us do? Just Penny?
You're
Penny,
not
Jasmine
speaking in
does.
Elven the whole time.
I mean,
No.
technically, Grim knows Orcish, which might actually be a different dialect of Elven.
yeah,
Well, the truth is that actually, through this whole thing, you guys have had no trouble understanding, for the most part, what they're saying. There's been a couple of moments where you didn't, where they started arguing very fast. But for some reason, you've been able to understand most of what they've been saying, either because they've been speaking a language you all understand, or because there's something going on that's allowing that
That
each other to be
happen.
understood.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, Penny's just gonna. The last thing she says is, these people, they were humans. An orc, dragon, not elves. They have fought harder for elvenkind than elves have for centuries. In the span of 2 to 3 weeks, I don't even know how long we've been together, but they are family now, and they will be treated as such.
Mizanayaki just looks at all of them. And he says, you forget. Mina Saba could erase them with a snap of her fingers if she felt they threatened our young ones. I have no trouble with them going and seeing what protections there are for them. The others start mumbling, and some of them are like, yes. Some of them are like, I don't agree with this. This is terrible. You always told us this is the most protected thing ever. You know, it's just, this whole thing is just kind of unpleasant because, you know, politics.
Politics.
Mm-hmm. So, the king stands. I would ask that we are in agreement, but we never are. So I will just say, this is what shall be, and you are dismissed. He looks at each of them in turn. And they stand. And with one last look at each of you guys and their eyes just kind of lingering on you, Penny, it's really uncomfortable, but they do leave and leave all of the rest of you there in the Senate room, throne room. You're not sure what this is called, but something. Mizanayaki gestures and the windows light up, and the bubble of whatever this was goes down. And all of a sudden, Grim, shoop, you're back into your human form. And that sense, all of a sudden, you couldn't really tell while it was gone, but all of a sudden you've got magic back.
Oh. I was not expecting that.
He's like, ow, 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 ow.
Mizanayaki says, I have called for someone to take you to Mina.
Okay.
Rest, eat, attend to your little ones, and we will leave in the morning. And then he smiles and says, I know that seems ironic. There is no morning here. But there is after a fashion, as you'll see.
There's
We need to see the children in the morning?
No, you will see what makes the morning. You will see the children now.
Oh, okay.
I also misunderstood that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He shakes his head just ever so slightly, and then he turns
Commas are important.
and walks through the doorway that Penny, that you had come through with him. And he closes it behind him.
Bye.
And you guys are left alone in that room for a moment with just yourselves.
Penny, you did so well. I am so proud of you.
And it's just like a scoop up and like still swinging her around like on orc size, even though I'm not anymore.
Yeah, you're like, people were bowing to you, and you're like the highest of royalty.
Listen, it is about damn time other people saw you exactly the way that I did from day one. Finally. Come on, people.
That was weird.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I all put my hands up and I'm like,
Yeah, I know. I get it. It's all right. You did so great. As somebody who talks all the time for like a living and everything, let me tell you, you stepped up to the plate and you knocked it out of the park.
So, Cross,
Mm-hmm.
your son yanks at your clothes a little bit while you're all sitting there. And he holds up his hand and he shows you that he's found somewhere on the floor here, as he's been scrabbling around by your feet through this whole thing. He found a little black marble, a little black diamond marble. And
oh,
he's like, ah,
It's very shiny, isn't it?
shiny, shiny. And now that he has a tongue, he can actually say it. Shiny. Shiny.
he goes cross-eyed.
Cross takes out a gold coin and
Mhm.
kind of does the whole like
Yeah.
pedal it through his fingers, and then I'm gonna use sleight of hand to then make it disappear,
Oh,
Okay. Shiny. Shiny.
and
He
then
looks very surprised.
classic pull it out from behind his ear.
There. And he squeals in joy. This 5-year-old child, or the equivalent of a 5-year-old child in whatever elven, you don't know, but seems like that. He squeals and he starts laughing and just babbling, not words yet, but every now and again it's shiny, shiny, and dada. It's like baby talk, even though he's 5, but that's all he's learned so far. And after just a moment, one of the doors at the far end opens. And the young lady that had been going to take the young child steps in and gestures for you all to come with her. But she doesn't speak.
Grim starts following.
Grim, are you wearing clothes?
No.
Grim,
No.
I
Oh.
really need you to put on some clothes before we go see a bunch of children.
Penny still has like the cloak thing from the thingy, so she'll take it off and she'll hand it to you. Pants!
Oh, okay. I left my armor back in my new hoard.
You a new horde?
Yeah, where did you all go?
Oh, I went to this the bard guy. Oh my god, the amount of art and books and music and everything they have. He had magical instruments that could create images. It's insane. He taught me a whole bunch of things. I'll tell you all about it later. It was so cool. But
More books?
there's so many books.
I've got
I
an
don't know if
entire
they're necessarily-
library.
There's a library.
Yeah.
That's so your jam. Is that
No,
your new horde? Is it just a bunch of books?
no, it's separate.
It was separate horde. What is your
Yeah.
horde?
Well,
That's a fun word.
it's just a cave with where I'm going to put, you know, jewels and riches.
And pants.
Well, that's where my pants are. Yes. Right.
Hold on. I'm just gonna like wrap it around him in a way like that's almost toga-y, so that he can walk properly without having to hold it.
Just saying, we're seeing a bunch of children. It's gonna be awkward if we don't do something about this. All right, you look fine. Let's go.
I drunk a gross drink.
You drunk a gross streak?
Drink.
Drink.
Oh. What? Ooh, what did you drink?
Wait, did it give you memories back?
No.
Oh.
What did it do? What did it taste like?
Gross.
Descriptive.
Yeah, but I'm gonna need more to
Like-
go on. Like, how gross?
It was red and heavy and gross.
Is it like
Blech.
viscous or like cottage cheese or like goo?
Goo.
Goo. Wasn't blood, was
Gross.
it?
No.
Why did you drink this?
'Cause he gave it to me. He drank some too.
Maybe don't drink random drinks that dudes give you out of nowhere. Just like as a blanket statement.
Okay.
I
Don't
mean,
drink random drinks.
Unless it
That's
comes
random.
from HelloFresh.
Unless it comes from HelloFresh.
Hey.
You see that HelloFresh logo on there, you know that stuff's fresh and good. But
I mean, he's a lich though, so who knows what they like to drink?
telling you blood.
It was in a glass bottle like this. Bloop.
So some kind of viscous potion-y thing. What did it do?
It made you go woo.
This is what I'm saying. You don't take drinks from random guys. Lich or anything. Just don't do it.
It made him go woo. I was like bleh.
Mutual woo is not a good thing.
Oh no, I went bleh.
Unless everybody decided that's what we wanted to do. And then yay, mutual woo.
It was alcohol.
Frost has
But-
been relatively kind of silent, even
Oh, we'll
throughout
get-
the whole,
we're
throughout
getting
the whole meeting.
Yeah.
What about you, Cross? Where did you go?
Talk about death. Because whether we like it or not, there's gonna be a lot before this was over. Because whether we lure the Alchemages out, and they're going to bring people who probably don't deserve to die. But if we don't, they're gonna hide behind a lot more people who also don't deserve to die.
The only way to avoid death like that is to go to them directly.
Telling you, subterfuge. You know, Cross, you're already one of them, sort of, that they trust, and Ramiel also has that.
I don't think she trusts me anymore.
Oh
Or
yeah.
at least if she said she was, I wouldn't trust her. You remember that red crystal-y thing?
Oh yeah, the thing that blew up underneath.
That was kind of me telling her to fuck off.
Well,
That hurt.
I can
I don't think we could really use that as a.
listen.
There's a few. There might be more options, but there's a few options. If they. First things, we figure out what the heck the mist is, the light. We stop it because it's the first thing that we need. But dealing with the mages, we have to get them out of where they are. We can't fight them in their home turf. Like, that's not going to
No.
work. But if they were, like you said, to learn of something like this, they would bring everything. They could not. They don't have enough. They're scrounging.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I do know.
So
They don't have anything.
Do we
And whatever,
need-
and then I don't mean anything, but whatever they do have, they would use it all.
Sure. But here's the thing. Sorry goes a real long way. I will happily coach you through getting back on her good side. Because we really need inside people.
That's gonna be I thought about that. Problem is, instant I show up looking like this.
We disguise you. That's what I was saying. We should all at least make some kind of lists of at least ideas of magical things that can help us. We don't know what they're capable of making, but if after what I've seen, they can make some pretty amazing things. And if we come up with ideas like a constant disguise that can't be detected, or something that we can understand and speak all languages, things like that, anything to help our subterfuge, anything to make it undetectable that we are lying, things like that.
You can cut the tips of your ears off like I did.
Maybe that's the last
Doesn't sound
ditch
too
effort.
appealing.
I don't
okay.
personally want to cut that off. But if it comes to that, it comes to that. Also, apparently, I look like a thing that doesn't exist anymore, so that'll be fun. But that's a problem for future me. In the meantime, I think that'll help if we make a list of magical things that could really
Okay.
help us. And
She's gonna want something.
Me.
nope, you've already done that one. We're
We
not
can't do
sacrificing
that.
you again.
Not gonna
Okay.
happen.
Okay.
The woman who's leading you guys down the stairs is silent, like she's not understanding or not listening. You're not really sure what's going, if she just doesn't understand you, but she's not reacting to what you're saying. And she's finally stopped in front of a door that's way down past where you guys got off the manta ray thingy, and down below where even Aramiel went, although you don't know that, but you've gone way down, almost to the base of the tower. You have a feeling. And she turns and looks at you. And smiles, and then opens the door and takes you out of the tower onto a bustling city street. And it's crazy because it's dim here with these blue crystal lights and stuff. But it's more dim than it was when you came in. And you're not sure why. It takes a moment to identify that some of the lichen that's up on the massive cavern ceiling so far, far away, seems to have dimmed from the light that it was giving before. And the people that are walking by, you see what you would call a fishmonger carrying a basket of some sort of thing that's kind of seems like it's wet. There's somebody with baskets of lichen. There's somebody with a little pole with little strange blue globes off of it that people are every now and again coming and buying one and taking it off with them. You know, there's you don't understand what all of these things are, but what you do get is that this is a bustling metropolis, that these are people who've lived here their whole lives, and that this is home. There's no children that you see anywhere, but there's a lot of people, and for the most part, you hear some argument in the language that you don't understand off that way, and you hear somebody that's clearly drunk singing off tune over that way, but for the most part, everybody seems kind of happy. Nobody looks like they're starving. There's no beggars. As you follow her winding through these streets, and then she takes you off of the main street, and you see this bustling life. It's been so long since you guys have been in a city that it feels almost weird, but so comforting for all of you but Grim and Penny, who've never really experienced this.
Mm-mm.
And it's just new, and it's just interesting. And as you're walking, people wave at you and smile. Penny, people smile at you, just these elves as you go by.
Hi!
And they all look like Cross and Ramiel and Jaswin did when they became elves. But they don't look like you and Ellie or Killia at all. So it's very clear that that you are different kinds of elves. But it's just cool. But she takes you off into a little alley away from them. And you go down a little further, and as it gets quieter and quieter, the walls become brighter and brighter polished. And they stop being crystalline and eventually start being almost like metal. And then they become shaped metal. And the metal is shaped in beautiful, playful shapes. You know, if you can imagine a bunch of toys made out of cast iron that had been shaped into a wall, it would be something like that. And eventually she gets to a door and she stops and holds up her hand and stands there in silence and stands there and stands there and stands there. And then after way too long, she finally lowers her hand and the doors open. And you look into a wonderland. And in there, you can hear, you can't see them yet, the laughter of children that you haven't heard this whole time in this place. And that's where we're going to end it tonight.
Oh, shit.
With the laughter of children after all of that dour blah, blah, blahing.
Hey, it was fine. We got things through.
Mm-hmm. Got to talk to some important people.
Yeah.
Got some people on your side, got some people not on your side, as happens with politics.
Yep.
But things have moved forward. And next week we talk to the children, and perhaps
not next week.
Not next week.
Oh, that's right. We won't be here next week. Instead, we'll be doing an interview show for Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So all
Happy
of you
Valentine's
have
Day.
a wonderful, happy Valentine's Day next week. And don't do anything I wouldn't do.
And if you have
What
any
wouldn't you
questions
do?
you want to ask us,
Pretty much, there's nothing I wouldn't do if I wanted to. So, you know, it kind of leaves it kind of open.
Yes, as Shauna said, come with questions.
Come with questions. Yes, please. And we love you. Thank you for showing up. And we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Hello Fresh.
I was going to say, also go and get some HelloFresh.
Go buy
You
some
guys.
HelloFresh.
We have that code there that you can use that gives you 70% of your first order. I'm just saying, okay, bye.
Bye. Bye.